As you enter the final boss room in Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Link is bringing his fairy tale self into the room. You do a quick check of the tools and attributes that you have before you go into battle. You have your Hylian shield, check. Ideally, you have Big Auron's sword. This will make your life a lot easier. You'll need to have on deck some light arrows, and ideally, you've maxed out your heart health. These are all things that you've acquired on your journey. After your check, you're ready for the final boss. You enter the room, ready for battle. But before we begin the fight, I want you to just think about how far you've come. At the beginning of the game, Link wakes up in the Kokiri Forest as a young lad with Navi incessantly nagging him. It's a sign of things to come, my friend. You're gonna have to get used to it. He's only 9 years old. He has a tiny little sword, a dinky little shield, and his adventure begins here. In the course of getting to the end boss, you, playing as Link, have collected different tunics, different swords, shields, your heart health got maxed out. You've met the 6 sages that will eventually capture Ganondorf in the void of the evil realm. In conclusion, you've become the man who is ready to take on the final boss. Now imagine what would happen to you if you didn't collect all of these things. Imagine your 9-year-old Link waking up in the forest, and instead of walking out into your village, you walk straight into battle with Ganondorf. How would that turn out for you? For starters, you would be immensely confused. And for second, you would get absolutely wrecked. Your shield can't deflect anything, you have no health, you don't stand a chance against the main bad guy. As a child, as a boy with no additional stats, context, knowledge, tools, nothing, young Link is going to fare around the same chances you would have if you picked a fight to the death against a random toddler. If you want to know how that would go, I encourage you to not go try that yourself. In society today, we are looking at a crisis in meaning. Drug abuse is going up. Mental health is a key issue destroying our societies. People are overdosing. There's a crisis. People don't have hope. And they go back to this overarching thought and ask, what is the meaning of all of this? What's the reason that we're here? It's obvious why people want to ask this question. After all, if you figure this out, doesn't it make life worth living? Doesn't it take all of this suffering we have and make it a battle worth fighting? As Viktor Frankl said, those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. It's a very reasonable question to ask. The only problem is that when you're asking for the meaning of all this, you're not the handsome, looks-maxed Link with all the connections, knowledge, and tools on deck ready to go. You're the immature, freshly born Link asking questions from the Kokiri Forest. Even if you do get the answer at this point in your development, it won't do you any good. Let me explain. If at the beginning of Ocarina of Time, you pulled young Link aside and said, listen here quick, you need to know this. When Ganondorf transforms into the evil monster Ganon, you're going to need to use the Master Sword to stab him right through his fucking face, and then the 6 sages are going to imprison him in the evil realm, and you will finally get some alone time with Zelda. Without context for any of this, young Link is going to look at you the same way that I look at the schizo crackhead rambling about the Jews outside my office. There's no point in knowing the meaning of life and the meaning of the universe without any of the context for it. It doesn't apply to you, and realistically, only does you more harm than good. Here's another example. In ancient mythology, Hercules found himself at a crossroads. He could choose the easy way of life, or he could take the path that he ultimately took, which was to complete his 12 labors and become the Hercules that we know and love.
What was that name again?
Hercules.
If, as he was completing his first labor, about to kill the Nemean lion, the goddess Athena came down and gave him the crotala that will scare the birds away that he'd need on his 6th labor, he'd be confused. Why do I need this? He'd ask. And then if we get everything out of order, life constantly seems like that Mickey Mouse meme saying that it's a special tool that will help us later. Ha ha! You don't need to know the special tools that will help you later though. You just need to know what's required to handle the task in front of you. It is a mistake to look too far ahead, says Winston Churchill. The chain of destiny can only be grasped one link at a time. You don't need to sweat over that end goal, as you're not even ready for it just yet. Instead, figure out what you need to do next. Is it make money, make friends, handle your fitness, care for yourself? What is the next task on your docket? Do that. Take the right action, right now, and stop letting the anxiety of what it all means paralyze you. I'll leave you here with one more analogy from our good friend Viktor Frankl. He says to consider a movie. It consists of thousands upon thousands of individual pictures, and each of them makes sense and carries a meaning, yet the meaning of the whole film cannot be seen before its last sequence is shown. However, we cannot understand the whole film without having first understood each of its components, each of the individual pictures. Isn't it the same with life? Doesn't the final meaning of life too reveal itself, if at all, only at the end, on the verge of death? There's one more trap that people fall into in their spiritual journey, or lack thereof, and it's kind of the opposite, in a way. Imagine that you're walking through the jungle alone and you come across a river. You know for whatever reason, upon your path, you'll need to cross this river to get to the other side. You get to work, building yourself a boat. You carve yourself out a paddle, test it out, hop in the water, it works. Incredible, amazing, off you go. Once you get to the other side of the water, you continue on your journey. But when you get to the next river that you need to cross, you realize something. This island is not the same environment. Say before it was a tropical island, now it's like an abandoned industrial industry. It's massive, sprawling, rusty metal everywhere. The boat that you used to cross that first river is too far away, and you can't use the same techniques because you are in a completely different environment. The same way that Link and Zelda couldn't get the water tunic using the same strategy that got him the fire tunic, it doesn't make sense for you to use the same strategy to build the next boat. What got you here won't get you there. You have all the skills to cross the first river. Bringing it to reality, skills-wise, say for example, you learned that in order to not get hurt in a relationship, you can distance yourself emotionally and never get too close to anyone. If you feel yourself starting to get too close, you can always run away. That's the strategy that got you here. But if you have a goal where that strategy won't work, you have to change it up. If you want to be successful, that is. If to cross the next river, your boat is going to be your capability to have a healthy relationship, this avoidant boat that you've already built, no es la onda, as we say in Spanish. You need to acquire a new set of skills and tools in order to build the next boat, to cross the next river. Life is just a series of these rivers to cross, with each requiring an openness to building a new boat in order to cross the next river. Always remain open to learning new strategies, of accepting that you may need to pick up new knowledge in order to make it to the next stage. Don't start resenting your first boat, as it is what got you here in the first place. That's always a tool in your tool belt that you can fall back on, if needed. But you need to remain open to the idea that there may be a different way to do things. The goal in this is to always remain open. It's a balance of being confident in your abilities, as well as staying open to the possibility that there may be a new approach that you hadn't considered before. All that I know, says Socrates, is that I know nothing. Many people refuse to. They stay with their same habits, same way of being, and they feel that this will carry them through their whole life. That's not going to work in this rapidly changing world. We need to be able to constantly adapt to changing circumstances. When we get to the next task, it may require our skills that we've already developed, or it may require new ones. Always remain open to the possibility that you're going to need to learn something else in order to conquer your next labor. When does it end, you may ask? Well, that's the neat thing. It doesn't. Now, there's always going to be more to this, caveats to each thing, as you can also fall into the trap of feeling that you need more and more skills and we're never good enough, which leads you down an imposter syndrome rabbit hole where we don't make any progress. But that's the subject of another video. We'll leave it here for now.